If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Purdue.
All right, let's go on and get started here. It's that time again. I am a professor of perseverance, Dr. James Purdue. Thank all of you for coming in and listening, coming in on the replay. This podcast couldn't be made without, well, I guess it could be made, but it wouldn't be going on if it wasn't for you listening and inspiring me to get other people's messages out there to help you. So again, thank you for coming in on the Professor of Perseverance podcast. Hey, today our guest, well, let's say that she had a transformation. And wouldn't you know it, it was because of what do you want to put a challenge, an adversity, a difficulty. It was a survivor of a traumatic car accident, has put her on the path where she's at today and has transformed her life. Welcome to the show, Jennifer Pilates.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here today.
Yeah, you say that now, but you're going to regret it when we're over with, right?
Never. No, I love your
go.
energy. I love your podcast. You are serving so many amazing people around the world with your message and inspiring hope. And I love everything that you're doing. And it's wonderful to be a part of it.
Well, and I appreciate it again. Again, it went for you and other people listening and other guests, coming in. This show, people would get tired of just hearing me. So I decided, let's open this up and let's do a platform, do my one good deed for today and open up a platform for people to get their message out so you can help hundreds of people, thousands of people in years to come.
I think that that's amazing. And it's just so great that you're doing this.
Well, Jennifer, again, thank you for coming in and sharing your time with us and a valuable time, I'm sure, too, as well. And so, and the people you're going to be helping. So let's go ahead and get started here. So, transformation. You had this car accident, survivor of this car accident, dramatic car accident. So if it was your beginning point of your transformation, what was Jennifer like beforehand?
Jennifer was determined to climb the corporate ladder, determined to make X amount of dollars, determined to buy a house by X age, determined to be married and have children by X, was following the program that social media set out there, was following the program that we were all told, growing up, this is what you do. And so I was going to excel. I was going to go above and beyond. And I can remember telling my mother, yes, sure, I'll get married and have kids one day, but I'm going to need a nanny because I'm going to be really busy with work. And she was like, that you'll never do that. Like you could never. And I said, oh, no, I'm too busy. So I was really headstrong and I knew what I wanted. I was passionate about the industry that I was in. I was in the retirement industry. I had been working in that since I was 15 years old. I worked myself all the way up into an executive position. And sometimes you just get caught up in your head and you get caught up in what you think you should be doing or what people tell you should be doing. And you lose sight of the heart of things. And that really happened for me. When I started in this industry, I loved the residents. I was in the assisted living and then the independent aspect of it. I started as a waitress at 15. I climbed that ladder. I went into marketing. I absolutely adored it. I love the residents. I was very pro, and pro for the residents, pro for the families. And so and then pro for marketing. I mean, I could do it all. I didn't understand the complexity of what it meant to go into the executive position. I knew I just wanted it. That's what I was doing next. And what I didn't realize was at the moment that I stepped through that gateway, there was a door that really closed between you and the residents and the families. And I didn't do well with that. And I struggled. I mean, I really tried to buck the system. I wasn't the normal executive. I would still be on the floor with the residents, with families. And that was a no-no at the time, at the place that I was working. And so I always say you can have all the plans you want, and God's sitting back and going, let me know when you're done with that plan so that I can, really put your plan in place. And I think, this was such a huge blessing in disguise when I look back at it. When the car accident happened, I was actually on my way home. I had moved out west. I was living in Boulder, Colorado. I grew up on Cape Cod. So I was a little country bumpkin. I was out there in Colorado. I loved it. I loved Boulder. It was beautiful. And, I had the right car, the right everything. I was just playing into that executive role, but I wasn't happy. And I can remember days I would call home to my mentor who I had worked for crying, going, oh my God, like these people hate me. They don't respect me. I was very young. I was maybe 24 years old. So no one was respecting me in that position. And, looking back, I don't quite blame them. I was not set up for success when I was brought in for that position. So that didn't help either. So there was a lot of things, going on as there always is. And, one day I was driving home and I was going from North Glen to Boulder. I was at a red light and I looked up and I could see this car barreling at me in my rearview mirror. And your first instinct is you look right, you look, where can you? There was 6 lanes of cars. There's nowhere for me to go. And the next thing that I remember was that there was a police officer at my window. And I just remember thinking, my God, they got here so quick. Well, when you look back at it, clearly I was probably knocked unconscious for whether that was a hot second or something. And the police officer that was at my window was actually the man that hit me and rear-ended me. So he was on his way home. So he was dressed, he was still dressed in his official capacity, but he was in his own car. So it was quite traumatic. I had internal soft tissue damage from head to toe. Obviously, there was concussion. It was just, I was a hot little mess, to say the least. I remember they took me to the hospital in an ambulance. And because I remember my mom always saying, like, if you're in an accident, you no matter what, take the ambulance to the hospital. So I did do that, which was a blessing because I wasn't in my right state of mind. And I remember my girlfriend, I had a best friend that moved out to Boulder with me. She showed up at the hospital and I was hitting on the doctor. If that doesn't tell you, this poor girl was just not in her mind. And so I ended up in doctor's offices for about 8 hours a day. And it was very intense. There was a lot of pain. There was a lot of cognitive issues. For instance, if I were looking at a bowl of fruit, I would say, could you hand me that apple? But I would mean the orange. So there were some missed triggers going on. And so there was a lot of doctors, a lot of time off. So I wasn't in my working capacity at that time. The blessing is here being in Boulder, Colorado, you're in the Mecca of holistic alternative care. Coming from Cape Cod, I was not familiar with any of this. It was way, things that back in the day hit Cape Cod much later. So I didn't really know. So I experienced all these amazing modalities. I experienced craniosacral, chiropractor, massage, healing, Reiki, acupuncture. I think we were even doing NLP, and I remember a doctor saying, you don't live in your body. We got to get you in your body. And I thought, wow. And that really has always stuck with me. And it's made sense over the years as different things have transpired. And I was at a chiropractor's and I wasn't getting relief. The pain was there. And they referred me to a Pilates trainer who specialized in rehabilitative care. And that is what got me on my journey to Pilates. And from her, I started taking Pilates and advancing myself at a school that was out there called the Pilates Center in Boulder. And so I rehabbed for a year. I went back. I probably went back to work. I think it was about 4 or 5 months later, but in a minimal capacity. I think I was only working 3 hours a day, maybe. And so Pilates really became my life, and learning the history of it, learning from Joseph Pilates, who really believed in this body, mind, spirit connection. This is what, many in the spiritual world would say, wow, she really had this spiritual awakening. Like she really, and I say, yeah, God came in and say, hey, you were heading down the wrong path and let's just straighten you out a little bit, literally and figuratively. And so it truly changed my life. That's when a lot of gifts that I was not aware that I had really began to blossom. That's really when my empathic gifts came out, my intuitive gifts. I may not have understood everything at that time, but I was well aware of kind of what was going on. Whether or not I could really discern or work with it was something different, but it brought me to that capacity. And then lo and behold, when you fast forward, I ended up getting out of the corporate world. I ended up becoming an entrepreneur. I had, because I was in physical therapies and doctor's offices so much, you really couldn't have a quote unquote normal 9 to 5 job at that point. I worked jobs I would have never worked. I was an incredible wedding and event planner for this beautiful restaurant in Boulder. Was one of the highlights of my life. I enjoyed it so much. I worked for a beautiful little Italian restaurant being their hostess. I mean, I just did all these amazing things and I started to dabble in entrepreneurship. And then through going, and still having my rehab at the Pilates center, I had remembered one day a teacher, someone didn't show up and someone said, well, geez, half-assed joking. Well, Jennifer's here every day. Surely she could teach it. No,
That's
I
all
did
right.
not. Right. I did not end up teaching that day. But what that did was it planted the seed, and the teacher looked at me and said, you should really come to school. Now, here's your other blessing. So back in that day, I was blessed with an attorney for the car accident, covered all my medical bills. That was beautiful. And I had a little bit of money that was coming to me. And don't you know that God blessed me with just enough to go to the Pilates center? So sorry, I get a little teary eyed. So
No,
that's how
no,
it all
no, no. That's
started.
great.
That's how it started for me, and the school was a year for me. And then at the end of the year being of school, there were things that were going on in my family back east, and so I was then being guided back east at that point in time. And so I went back to Cape Cod at that time, and I did my best at trying to, advance, Cape Cod into this spiritual world that it was not ready for me. It was not ready for that at that time, but it was beautiful, and my niche really fell into my lap of being this rehabilitative specialist. And also I really worked with a lot of seniors over the years. So I always say my clients were from 8 to 88. There was all sorts of wonderful people in between. Men and women and celebrities and professional athletes have always been my niche. If someone was broken, if someone had something that needed to be fixed, I was their girl. So they called me, whether I was on the East Coast or out in Colorado or when I was in California or Arizona. I mean, that's always been, my niche. So it was a blessing, and it really developed my healing abilities and my empathic abilities over the years. So there was so much more going on than a typical Pilates training rehabilitative session.
Now, let me go ahead and tell you right now, there's no crying on my show. So to get them weepy tears
I
out,
know.
no, I'm kidding about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, if you get emotional and cry, only thing it's gonna do is make me get a little wet eyes. Okay, so because I'm an emotional person. So
Yeah.
all right, but hey, let me ask this question here now. You mentioned God a few times. Were you spiritual, religious? Were you
Hmm.
a God believer before your injury? Did that develop
Hmm.
over the car accident? Because you've talked about being blessed, and I'm a believer like you, and it doesn't happen all the time, or it may be how we perceive things, but sometimes we need that little kick in the butt to get us back on the right path. Not to say the car accident. I mean, surely God could have got your way, your attention a little easier, but you said it was a blessing after
Hmm.
all. And same thing with me with my injury. Um, I got my neck broke playing football, and so I tell people it ended up being the best thing for me
Hmm.
because who knows if it wasn't for that I'd be laying underneath the river bridge, homeless, looking for my next meal. Who knows? We don't know because where we've survived from and where we came from. And so yeah, question was you're a believer before this, and it just kept improving, or you know from there.
Well, I actually grew up in a very Catholic family. Everyone went to Catholic school when they were young. I did too. And then my family moved, so I switched. So there was always God around. I mean, I have an aunt that was a nun. There's someone else in the family that was a priest. So there was always a lot of that. I didn't necessarily resonate or always understand it though. The way old school, the way we were brought up with Cathology at that time. So I would say what this brought me is to that place of being a real spiritual person and still maybe not understanding where I was at, but I sure as heck knew that there was something bigger than me involved in all of this. And even though, I mean, many people go through lots of different, traumatic events in their lives, and we don't always see it at that moment. It could be a week later, a year, 10 years later, and you go, wow, thank God for that. God was really on my side there. And so my relationship has grown and developed so much since then. And then when you fast forward through my life 3 years ago, there was another traumatic medical event that transpired. And I definitely, I mean, I had been so close with God prior to that. But boy, let me tell you, I mean, we are such BFFs now at this point. It's just like,
There you go. That's right.
my angels, God, I always tell people, like, if you see me talking and it's just me, like, that's okay. Like, God's with me, my angels. I'm just talking to everybody. Like,
There we go.
we're having a meeting.
It was those saying it's okay to talk to yourself. It's when you answer yourself, they say it's the problem. So,
Exactly.
but again, when you're answering yourself with your angels, there's nothing wrong with that. So,
Hmm.
Jan Fansler, thank you for coming in. Hey, Jan, this is Jennifer Pilates, and she's going over her story and to help us. Actually, Jan's been on the show with me before, and she's a cancer survivor. So, Jan, thank you for coming in. So, all right, now let's get into this here with your trans. Now, here's what would have been one of my first thoughts after the accident, after going through a lot of the doctor's appointments. You're saying I would have been concerned that I would be one of those residents that you were taking care of,
Hmm.
and being that same building was what I would have
Hmm.
thought of. Because when I had my injury, one of the first things that popped in my head was JT. JT, I met him when I was 12 or 13, 14 years old. I would visit my grandfather in the nursing home. But one day I went to go visit, and the man hollered for me, 2 rooms up from my grandfather, and went into his room, and he asked me if I'd hold a glass for him to get a drink of. He was paralyzed from his neck down from a car accident. And so when I was laying on the field paralyzed, that's the first thought in my head. I'm going to be in a nursing home at the age of 19. So did this thought ever cross your mind that you might be a resident of where you maybe not the same place, and
Right.
someone is going to be helping and taking care of you?
It didn't. But what's interesting about what you're saying is that it takes me back, and I didn't mention this. At the time, I had been specializing in Alzheimer's disease, and I was a part of building a special building down to the colors and the carpet and what helps them thrive. And so after the accident and after I came back to work, there was still a lot of people that didn't understand how not well I was because I was with those residents every day. So I could really, I didn't realize how much I was faking it. But so, I mean, I guess I really was there. I mean, I was with them and that's where I held. But I would say you know, it never came to my mind worrying, thinking like, oh my gosh, it never entered my mind. What's interesting is I find that when I was specializing in Alzheimer's, it came back to help me later in life because then my grandmother had contracted that disease. And so I find that, there's all these different roads that weave in and out of your life that you don't always understand until later on. And I do believe that every adversity, as difficult as it is, that is transpiring, and I like to say for you, right? Not just to you, it's happening for you,
Mm-hmm.
will eventually help someone else down the road. And we don't necessarily see it in that moment and at that time. And so there was a lot of that. But no, amazingly enough, I never thought, oh, this was the end of the world. And I guess because it just really started this new journey. And I think at that moment, I also didn't realize, thank goodness for all those doctors, because I don't think that I ever acknowledged how serious things were at that time.
Mm-hmm. And mention Alzheimer's here. I'm not. I'm just going to come out and publicly say it. I don't have Alzheimer's, but I do have some timers, and so we go from there. Um, do you think that you possibly working in that field helped you as you're going through your situation? with all the doctors, with your memory, with your body healing and everything, as what you did to help prepare you for this. For example, I think sometimes we go through things in life to prepare us for later on to what possibly could happen. For example, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, I'm visiting my grandfather in a nursing home, helping him get in a wheelchair, helping him get out of the wheelchair, helping him in bed. And what did it do? Prepared me and my family for what I hate to say, me becoming in a wheelchair. And so there was, so I think sometimes, like I said, do you feel that possibly working in that field prepared you and made you realize what's going on and what you need to do to get better?
I would say most definitely. I learned at a very young age, and a blessing, that you have to be your own advocate. No one else in this world, and especially after the last 2 years, I would hope that everyone has gotten this message. You must be your own health advocate. You must be your own advocate every day of your life. And so that's what that gave me. That advocacy, to know that if this doctor didn't work, I went to this doctor and I tried this and I tried this, and I was open. And that was the key. I was open to all these different modalities, like I said, that I hadn't either known about or never had the opportunity to experience. And it just brought me onto this amazing holistic pathway. So again, lots of blessings, lots of learning lessons. But it really, if it wasn't for that moment, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I'm
Amen,
grateful for it.
sister. That's right.
Amen. Amen.
Amen, sister. All right. So, now, when we get to here, you got me going here on the flow, and then I've started my sometimers again now. But what I was going to say, what I was going to say is, what was I going to say? Good gracious! You was on topic with me, and I tell you what. While I'm thinking about it, let me ask this question here. You seem like a very positive person. Were you this type of positive at before your injury or before the
No.
car accident? Okay.
I mean, I will say this. People always called me Pollyanna, who, Pollyanna is always going to make everything positive and this and that. But really, it came after my car accident that there was that mindset shift, that there was this health shift. There was so much that I didn't know in life that really became precious to me. And so I feel that, maybe I had it in me, but I definitely became more so after the fact, and more so years to come from them. I think you're always learning, and you're always kind of, you have those pitfalls. You just don't wake up one day and go, oh my God, it's so sunny in the middle of a cloudy day. You have your moments and you're like, what in the heck just happened there? Um, but it's always, there's always a blessing in everything. And it takes a minute. It might take biting your tongue. It might take holding your breath. It might take walking out of the room to see that blessing, but it's always there. And I think that that's something important to remember, and to remember
Yes.
again that, these are events and things, yes, in that moment that happened to us. But the key is very quickly, within 90 seconds, learning how to look at, why is this happening for me?
Is it a blessing or a curse?
Mm,
It's our
I'll,
perception. All right. For example, here, had this one friend of mine. He said one day, he said, look, I found a $20 bill. He said, man, God has blessed me today. I said, well, it depends on what you do with that $20 bills. If you go and buy shoes you need, food you need, if you feed somebody $4 out of it, all right, it's a blessing. But if you take it and the dude did drugs, and I said, you take the 20 and go get drugs, and then is it a blessing or a curse? And so then he went later. He didn't tell me it immediately, but he confessed it. He finally, went and did drugs with it. And
mhm.
so, yeah, so it's
Yeah.
our perception whether it's a blessing or a curse or how
Yeah.
bad and how worse
Yeah.
things could be. Now, let me ask this question here. Let's look here. Pre-car injury, you're gonna give me two answers: pre-car injury and after. All right. So not pre-car injury, but pre-car crash afterwards. Okay. Let's look at the old glass half full of water before the injury. How did you view the glass full of water?
Oh, great question.
Then how did you view it afterwards? Because you talked about you wasn't as
Mhm.
positive beforehand, and here you're more positive or transform more positive. So what will you before and after then? And looking
I
at how would you answer someone if they said, "Here's a glass of water half full. Is it half full, half empty?" How would you answer it?
mhm. It is such a great question. And I would say, because I'm really thinking about, life pre-car accident. Um, I would say that I was in that fake it till you make it. Sure, that glass is full. Um, but was I not believing it and didn't have the faith behind it? I don't think I always had that. I don't think I knew how to muster that. I didn't have the tools that I, acquired after the fact and the mindset after the fact. So after the fact, and now I would say, well, geez, it's a glass. We can refill it anytime we want. So,
I
it's
looked at it. It took me a while to me to come across my final answer. The Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. My final answer. Beforehand I would say half full, trying to be the positive person. But now I look at it and I tell people it's over abundantly full, because if you look at the water, it's half full. Then the rest of the glass is full of air, oxygen for life, and it's overflowing over top and
Mhm.
around the cup. And so I tell them it's abundantly overfilling full.
That's beautiful. I love that. And it's true, I mean, the glass is never empty. You can always fill it. That's the thing. You're refilling, you're putting on your oxygen mask. I mean, it's there for you. It's all in your mindset and what you choose to do.
So, what do you do for your daily mindset practices here? How could you help our audience with some type of mindset practice?
I really start my days with a beautiful mindset practice. And I know that people don't have a lot of time. So it's something I would definitely suggest, find 10 minutes. If you can find 10 minutes for yourself, go in the bathroom, hopefully before you even talk to people, before stuff is coming at you, and just center yourself. If you enjoy saying affirmations, say affirmations. If you have a prayer that's close to your heart, say that prayer. What are you grateful for? Give me 3 things that you're grateful for that are in your life, and 3 things that you're grateful for that, you're bringing into your life. And then ask for healing. Center yourself. I center myself with God. I do breath work. I actually do quite a bit in the bathroom before, anyone ever really sees me. There's a lot going on in there. I have a little mini exercise routine. I mean, but that I'm preparing myself for my day. I'm centering myself. I'm grounding myself so that when I come out, it doesn't matter what starts coming at me. I'm like, I'm good. I'm grounded in myself. I'm grounded in my practice. I know that, I've got, God and my angels by my side, and it's all going to work out. So definitely a mindset practice in the morning, being grateful. And if someone's like, well, that sounds like a lot, I'd say, you know what? When you open up your eyes, I just want you to say thank you. Say thank you.
There you go. And go back to my sometimers. I've come back to the question here that oh, when the question, what I was going to say is, you're the third person that I've interviewed, and I've done over 100 of them now, and that say that you need to be your own personal advocate for yourself. And the other two even went a little further, said that you need to know you better than your own doctor knows you. For you to be this advocate. If you don't want to hear from the doctor what you didn't know what's going on, you should already know what's going on with you. So,
Yes,
uh,
no, I agree with that 100%. It's so important to know yourself. And it's important that if you have a doctor or a practitioner that you're not resonating with, that aren't, then you find one that does. Because
exactly. Yes.
that, I mean, again, especially after the last 2 years, that is so imperative and so important. And, after I had a health crisis a few years ago, I mean, I was blessed to have some amazing specialists around me who understood me and got me on an emotional level. They just weren't looking at me physically. And that's the key, body, mind, it's a true story. They work together. And that's super important. And the more that people can really come and understand that, how that the body and the mind and that everything centers from your heart, how that all really works, the healthier truly just getting that mindset everyone can be.
And Jan's got a question for you. She says, "Do you have someone in your life now that you consider your spiritual partner?"
Ooh, great question, Jan. Now, I'm one
Jan, great question, Jan.
Now, is she hinting romantic, or is she, because I have a lot of spiritual
She
families
just
and
says
soul
spiritual
family.
partner. She didn't say whether that's romantic spiritual or family spiritual, or
Mhm.
you can give us two or three, four
Uh-huh.
examples of it if you want.
Yeah.
However you feel best to answer that.
Yeah, I would say I am very grateful for the Okay, I'm very sorry. I was reading what she was putting up there on the screen. I'm very grateful for the opportunity of the soul family that not only I've been able to pick in life, but that have come across my paths at different times of my journey in life. So, I do. I have a lot of incredible spiritual partners and mentors and spiritual family, and honestly, they're all over the world, which is, I see that. Yeah, not romantic, which is really great. Um, and really special, because you want that and you need that. You need to have those people around you, because, the family that you're born into may not get you. They may not get that.
Exactly,
And there's a
exactly.
lot, and I can promise you that there's a lot of that going on in my family. So I'm really blessed for those people that, and I don't take that um the people that cross my paths, I don't take lightly. I believe everyone crossed our path for a reason. And,
For you
people
now, for a reason, good or bad. They may
a,
not be the best person you've ever met in your life, but they teach you a lesson.
yes, and that's something that's awesome that you said that. I always say that there is a lesson and a blessing in everything. It's all in how you look at it. And so yes, I do. I have incredible spiritual family that's in Arizona. I've got just incredible spiritual people all around the world that I've met thanks to social media, even though I know I'm not a super big fan of social media. I'm grateful for that respect, that it's connected me with some amazing empaths around the world and amazing people that I'm able to bring into my community to help and mentor people that have done the same for me and pass that along. So I'm very grateful.
I'm not the biggest on the social media itself. I mean, I do have the other accounts, to help promote the show and stuff like that. But mainly, I go in and look and see when it's cussed me out or not, and then I'll hop back off. Is what I do. So I don't spend a lot of time on there. So
Yeah.
just again, just enough to promote the shows and
Mhm.
and move on for me is what I do. So
Mhm.
and go back to where you were talking about spending 10 minutes for yourself. I think that is very important. That if you can't make time for your own self, then how are you going to help someone else in the future? For if your health is failing and you don't do anything to get it better, you're not going to help anybody else. And so you've got to be able to prepare yourself. And a lot of people, I don't know if they don't think of it a lot or think of it as equally. They'll work their body out physically because they know they got to stay healthy physically, but then they won't do anything for their mind to keep
Mhm.
it, well, I don't know, physically, but mentally
Mhm.
strong as well.
Right. And that goes back to even the philosophy from Pilates, that it's imperative to balance the body, mind, and spirit. And people are taught to and programmed to work what you see, but yet go and sit down and maybe have, a diet coke or whatever that is. And well, you just negated everything that you did. So it's kind of half-assing it, I say. So it's
Hmm.
either like, if you're going to do it, please do it with your full ass. Don't half-ass it. Like, let's
There
just
we
go
go.
for it and let's really get healthy. And I'm not saying like, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm an 80-20 person. I have my vices. Everyone does, and you should, right? You should enjoy everything. It is imperative to take care of yourself, though. If you're setting up your day and you're the mom, you're the dad, you're the caretaker, when you set up your mental state and you feel good and grounded in your body, you are good to go. And then on top of that, if you can eat something healthy, well, good golly, you're amazing. And if you can take yourself for a walk, that's great. I mean, we're not asking for, a lot. We're just asking for you to love yourself like you love others. And, that's something that we need to continue to spread that more and more, because not many of us were brought up that way. We were brought up to work hard, play hard, and then you die hard, basically. You have this 9 to 5 job, you did it, and we were not brought to this earth to just work 9 to 5 jobs. That's not why any of us are here. So the moment that someone can get an inkling of light to see there's more to life, well, we want to help them, to turn on that floodlight to see it all, because there's so much more to life.
Now you're touching on the question I was going to bring up about the benefits of training with Pilates. We'll come back to that if you want to go a little deeper. But I want to say that what my sometimer's kicking in again. You say so much, and I pop into something, and then you keep going, and I drift out. All right. So while you're going a little deeper on your Pilates, I'll come back to if my sometimers let me come back to it, and then we'll go. So if you want to go a little deeper with the
Sure.
training with Pilates and
Yeah.
benefits.
So
I mean, you were
Pilates.
you were touching into that.
Yeah, a
So
little bit. Yeah, so
yeah,
Pilates is wonderful, and everyone's heard my story, so obviously it's great for rehabilitative care. There isn't anything that Pilates, or anyone that Pilates is not good for. When you're in that environment, you are working your body, mind, and spirit. You are connecting your mind to your body, so that, unlike what things that we've mentioned, that we've talked about, we want to work the abs we can see, right? That's why everyone's going to the gym. In Pilates, that's not what it's about. For us, we're working your innermost muscles. So your outermost muscles are automatically working. Hello, two for the price of one. I mean, who doesn't want a little extra added bonus in their workout? And when you go that deep, and when you begin working from your core, which is what we do in Pilates, and we work from your core outward, we're realigning you from head to toe. So you're going into a situation where you have a 50-minute session, and you're literally working from head to toe in an hour. You're stretching, you're strengthening, and you're lengthening your body. And then once you leave, your body is still burning fat for 24 hours. There are very few exercises, techniques, even to this day, that can say that. And the other thing that I love is that Joseph Pilates had this guarantee that he always gave with his clients. And it was, in 10 sessions, you're going to feel better. In 20 sessions, you're going to begin to see results. And in 30 sessions, you will have a new body. And that is truer than true. I have clients who, after our third session, they're getting up and they're walking taller. When you have a client that's consistently with you that was in pain, that's no longer in pain, that's amazing. I've helped people to not have to have knee replacement surgeries. I mean, there are so many benefits. I've had women, that I've been training, and they're in their last trimester and pregnant with twins. And I'm saying, oh my gosh, I really think we should just take a moment. And they're like, no, we will work out,
we're going
so
to get this
we're
done.
going to do this. So, it's wonderful. And when you are in Pilates, you quiet the mind, and your mind really does connect with your body. And I find there's very few things in this world that we can do that force us to be present where we really can be present. Pilates for me is one of them. Yoga is one of them. Skiing, oh my gosh, skiing is so quiet and beautiful. I love hearing the wind. Golf, and I'm sure swimming, I'm sure other people, but those are the things for me that, like, I'm really quiet and I'm really present and I'm truly in the moment, which is very difficult for all of us, right? We always have these thoughts flooding in. Um, and so being able to just be in that moment. And with Pilates, there is machine work, there is just floor work on the mat. So there's no excuse to say, oh, well, I can't. There's plenty of virtual work now, there's plenty of in studio work, and it's a great sense of community. And again, it's not an alternative practice anymore. It's so, out there, which when I started, oh my gosh, I remember when I first went back to Cape Cod, people hadn't even heard of it. It was very new. It was a big deal when I had first found it. And now it's very mainstream, which is wonderful. And I'd love to see everyone experience that and to have that benefit. A lot of people also, they want to work out and they want to get healthy, but they don't want to work out, right? They don't want to sweat. They don't want to feel pain. They want it to be quick, you know. And the cool thing about Pilates, you can get all of that. You could have I can have an NHL hockey player in here on the equipment sweating like crazy, and I can bring in an amazing, beautiful 75-year-old woman, and we're doing the same work, completely different. And she's never, she's not dropping a lick of sweat, and she's receiving the same benefits. It really is an incredible practice. And when you go back and you look, if anyone ever goes and looks up Joe, he'll say he was 50 years ahead of his time. And he truly, truly was. And even now, there are a lot of studios out there. And I always encourage people, particularly if you have any ailments, if you have bulging disc, if you've got something going on, you want to search out the right studio with the right instructor that has that specialty. You don't want to just go, and go through the drive-through of Pilates. And there's plenty of really incredible instructors out there. And if anyone needs help, please reach out to me. If it's something that they want, I will happily research and refer. I know so many people, around the world, trainers, that I will happily refer anyone. I think that's important. It's important to share that information. And if that's something that someone truly desires, I want to make sure they can get it.
And find the right person for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, now go back to my sometimers. It kicked in again, or kicked out, whichever. You mentioned about that we need to be able to love ourselves like we love others, and so that's a different topic in itself, because I've mentioned this before in other people, other guests, and it's we are so much more critical on ourselves than we think the next person beside us talking about us. You know, whatever we're doing, somebody may say, well, you're wasting your time, don't do it. Why would you want to waste your time do that? It's going to cost you too much money. Why would you want to do that? And then we want to blame them for not going and trying to do things to benefit ourselves, when truly it's us that talked ourselves out of it, for because we're so hard on ourselves. And again, I go back, one topic I talk quite a bit about is we look too much in the past and not so much on today and the future. And I can't do this because I got a DUI 40 years ago. I can't do this because I spent time in jail 50 years ago. I can't do that because
Mm-hmm.
last week I stumped my toe. So we're so much critical on ourselves, but we want to be the forgiving, giving person to others. But like you said, we need to be able to love ourselves as much and better than we do the other people.
Mm-hmm. And I find that the moment when we fall in love with ourselves, which is important, and that usually takes a lot of practice and a lot of time and a lot of healing and working on your stuff, right? Which always, growth is not comfortable, working through stuff is not comfortable. But when you can really be good with being by yourself and you really love yourself, you love yourself enough to treat you to whatever it may be, right? Your favorite holiday drink, your favorite sweater that you're like, you know what? I deserve that. Not, well, maybe not today, maybe next year. No, you deserve it. You deserve love. When you have that self-love and that self-worth, the amount of abundance and love that begins pouring in is like the most beautiful thing in the world. And it
There
takes
we
a long
go.
time, right? It's a lot of work, right? And we're all a work in progress. Picasso wasn't an amazing artist overnight. But when you just get that first glimmer of when you find yourself and you love yourself and you're like, I just love being with myself. And I remember the first time my mom ever said to me, she's like, you're totally fine alone. Like, you don't need anyone. And I was like, no, I don't. I love being with myself. I'm a pretty fun person. Like,
There you go.
me,
And I
myself, and
believe,
I have a good time.
and I believe that you are a fun person. Just listening to you and communicating with you in this last 30 minutes or so, plus 40 minutes. So, all right, we're going to get ready to wrap this up. Jan, she says, Jennifer, your gifts are going to help so many people. Thank God for choosing you for him to work through. And so Jan's a good one. Now, when she mentions talks this, the people stop and listen to her. So
Thank you, Jan. You're bringing tears to my eyes. That's very kind of you. I feel
there's
very
no crying
blessed.
on this show.
I know,
Oh, wait a minute. Whoa, wait a
They're
minute.
happy tears. They're
No,
happy
I'm
tears.
again. I'm kidding. We share tears sometimes on here. That's okay. So
It was
I, I'm
very
just think I'm just thinking of, you remember the show all with the women baseball players and Tom Hanks in there. There is no crying in baseball. So
right.
so All right. Hey, Jennifer. Hey, thank you for coming on and sharing. And I know we're cutting it pretty quick here like this, but hey, give us some of your social media, your website, how people can find, how they can communicate, if they wanted to get with you, email or something.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely put this in the show notes as well. But go ahead and for the ones that are listening.
Great. Thank you. Yes, you can always find me at jenniferpilates.com. You can access all of my works, my Pilates training, my intuitive readings, and coachings there, as well as my podcast, The Empowered Within, is all there. If you are an Instagrammer, you can find me at the Jennifer Pilates. And on Facebook, I am Jennifer Pilates. So pretty much if you just Google Jennifer Pilates, I will be there.
That's what I tell people. Do the old Googling and you'll find the person by
Mhm.
name in most
Yeah.
places.
Yeah, and
So
I'd love to connect. And if there's anything that I can help anyone with, or if anyone has questions, I would love to serve and be of help.
there we go. And I believe that of you. So what we've met of you that you're a real helping, serving person. So we appreciate sorry you had your car accident, but from what I could tell, and of course I didn't know you beforehand, I like the person I've met since then. So and appreciate you coming on. Now, one last thing, Jennifer, I asked people to we know people are hurting and suffering today, and if you can give us a powerful message to help them get through today.
Mhm. Center. And if you can do one thing for yourself each and every day, I'd like you to have grace for yourself and know that you are exactly where you're supposed to be at this moment in time.
There you go. We allow that crying this time happen. So yes, everybody, yeah, you're here for a reason, here for a purpose. You found this podcast for whatever reason. It was given to you, thrown to you,
Mhm.
accidentally found it. However you found it and you're listening, um, hopefully you're benefiting from it as well. You're going to find some little nugget that you know you can grab and hold on to. So Jennifer, thank you for coming on. Hey, everyone else on the replay and everything, be sure to find Jennifer. She will help you as much as she can and go from there. Jan, thank you for coming in. Everybody else, do something today, tomorrow, something next week, because I am the professor of perseverance, Dr. James Purdue. Thank you for coming on to the Professor of Perseverance podcast. But do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your paralysis.